This week on LensVid Talk, a digital instant camera, an ultra-high megapixel sensor from Canon, and a budget robotic camera arm. Stick around.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Lou.
Hey, Ito.
It's good to see you. And it's we're doing LensVid Talk 30. So it's the 30th episode of LensVid Talk. So that's good. And we have some reviews, as always, that we've been working on. The first one is basically it's an update on something that we have already shared with you on a previous LensVid Talk. The full review is not out yet. Hopefully, it will be out slightly after this one or around the time that we are going to post this LensVid Talk. It's an addition or an accessory to the Saramonic Ultra microphone system, wireless microphone system. We're actually using it as a backup for our regular Shure microphones here on LensVid Talk. And it's basically a Sony adapter, a Sony digital adapter. So this is the third or fourth, depending on how you count, company that released a Sony adapter, digital adapter for their mics. So Sony obviously has all sorts of digital connectors, or
so that it plugs into the hot shoe is what
exactly.
You're saying, right?
It plugs into the hot shoe, and it connects to the receiver of the Saramonic Ultra. It has this the Saramonic Ultra has this sort of smart connector on the back. So you plug it in, you have to twist it somehow, and the unit connects to the Sony camera. So all the new ones supports that, and it works. And I tested it with all my Sony cameras. It worked with all of them. You need to figure out what the gain to put for that. For us, it was, for my voice at least, it was about 8+ decibels on the receiver, and it seems to work. I'm still testing it, so it will take me a little longer to publish the entire review. It took some time, but hopefully it will be worth it. So that's the new update on the Saramonic Ultra with the Sony adapter.
It's good. Every time I have my LCD screen flipped out, and I have the mic plugging into the side, it's blocking a part of the LCD screen.
No, it's completely, it's really annoying. With this, it's great. We have to see that the audio quality doesn't drop, then it doesn't have any other issues. The build quality, I can already tell you, it's sort of plasticky. It's very delicate. I'm not sure if it's 100% Saramonic's fault, because the hot shoe, the smart shoe, whatever Sony is calling it, is very delicate on its own. Now, I'm thinking that the Saramonic unit, maybe our unit is still like a pre-production. I'm not sure. It's very new. I haven't seen anybody else testing it yet. But I would probably try and make it a little bit more like robust. But even Sony's versions of that thing are still very delicate.
You remember when I had to fix the foot on my flash?
Okay.
Right? The piece that goes into the hot shoe that came with my flash was made of plastic, and the replacement piece that I got was made of metal.
Yeah.
So I was like, why didn't they just make the original out of metal so that it just doesn't snap off when you hit your flash? So it's the same with this. They need to make it out of a solid.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. The connector itself can't be made, from very robust material, because there are very delicate teeth going into the hot shoe. So that part will always be delicate, I think. And
well, the teeth itself on the replacement
the teeth
part
are metal, but they are very thin.
But the actual bottom piece was made out of metal.
No, that's a different story. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the Saramonic Ultra Sony adapter. The whole thing again should be up soon, hopefully. The second product that we're testing, there's going to be a slight delay, so we'll see when this will post, but this is called the Prograde PG20 Pro hub. So this lovely thing over here, it's the part underneath these two card readers. I just showed it to you before. It's basically a hub. It's a USB-C 4, I think it's Thunderbolt 4 as well, hub. It comes with a power brick. I don't have it here, but on the other side, you have 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports. So that's cool. And you can connect, you can buy, they send us, they were kind enough to send us these like really nice short cables. These are again 240 watt, 40 gig
Wow.
short cables. Yeah. So you can connect two of them. This is magnetic. So that's pretty cool. So it fits exactly the two units from this is an SD card reader and a CF Express Type A reader from Prograde. The only thing that I would like to see is a SD dual SD in the same color as the. I know that's just me. I asked them if they're planning to release a version like this. But yeah, this is under review. It might take some time. We had something that needed to be checked with the company, but anyway, this is coming at some point. So let's talk about some interesting news. And the first one is kind of nuts. Canon has a 410, I think, megapixel full frame sensor.
Yeah, this is probably not what it appears to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's not the first time that I'm hearing of a super high resolution Canon or even Sony. I think Sony has a 100 megapixel full frame sensor. What you need to understand about these things, and I'm saying it to you and to our audience, Sony and Canon are both sensor manufacturers. Sony is a huge sensor manufacturer. They make sensors for smartphones and for military, scientific, and industrial uses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this sensor, I don't know, nobody knows outside of Canon, I'm assuming. But I'm assuming that at least not in the very short term, we're not going to see any camera like commercial, or not commercial, consumer style camera with this sensor.
Right.
Probably not with the Sony 100 megapixel sensor, but who knows, maybe. That's actually possible with the next iteration of the whatever A7R6. But regardless, 410 megapixel is a lot.
Yeah.
That's nuts. But again, I assume that this is going to be scientific, industrial, military.
There's pixel binning going on, so it's not exactly that many megapixels, or at least the megapixels aren't the same.
Full frame, 410 megapixel on a full frame means that the pixels are super, super, super tiny.
Right.
So yeah, it will require some.
It will mean a very large file also, right?
Yeah.
Massive.
Sure. Again, I'm not sure if this is designed more for stills, more for video, probably for stills.
It only does 8 frames per second.
Actually, that's kind of a lot for 410 megapixels. Right. Yeah, that's surprising. Yeah, okay. I don't have a lot of information about this. Look, these sensors, I have a family member, actually the brother of my wife, who has been working in the... let's call it the smart agriculture industry. And he's been playing around with very advanced sensors for his work. And I remember they actually bought like a very high-end Sony sensor to put in a prototype that they were building. And it cost them like $5,000, $10,000. I don't remember the exact price. I don't know if they even told me, but it cost them a lot of money. Like the price of the sensor was more or less the same as a full camera, like high-end camera at the time. So this might cost even more. So you have to remember another industry that might use those is like drones. Drones use like it can be an industrial or like an even military drone that is not like not a DJI.
My bet's on a microscope.
Could be, yeah. That's another option. So all sorts of things can use super high-end full-frame sensor, but probably not a camera very soon, like a consumer camera. There is the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, or S25, all the versions, but let's talk about the Ultra because it's probably the most interesting for some photographers. It has a bunch of new features. So it has log, which is cool.
That's the main one.
Yeah. Does you're an Apple guy? I'm
not an
Android
Apple guy.
Okay.
I now own an iPhone for the last year and a half or so,
But you're using,
for the first
you're
time.
also using a Mac, so you're
Correct.
sort of an
That's
Apple
why
guy.
I did it. And I also wanted the iPhone 15 in this case because it had log and the Samsung did not. But now I feel like I have an escape route back to Android.
No, I looked at some side by side. It looked good. I'm using the Pixel 8 and I like the results. The 9 is more or less the same, I think. I looked at some comparisons. I didn't see a huge improvement in the camera compared to the 8. So it has log, it has zebras, false color. That's pretty cool for a smartphone. What else? They're claiming better night shots, and I think that the wide angle camera, it's so strange to say camera when it's inside the camera, but there's no other way of putting it because it has several cameras in the phone. So it's a 50 megapixel wide angle, so higher resolution wide angle as well, I think. What else? They also improved the video editing in phone feature. Now they have the ability to remove unwanted sounds.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not sure what this entails exactly, but
some kind of noise filter.
Yeah, probably, but probably AI driven, whatever. Yeah. So that's the Galaxy S25 Ultra. I don't have a price. Do you remember the pricing? Probably over $1,000, but I'm not sure how much over.
They pretty much stay consistent with their price from year to year.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a little bit less than the iPhone.
The iPhone, yeah. Okay.
Usually.
So that's the Galaxy S25 family, and specifically the Ultra. There is this thing is cool. Did you see the new Fujifilm Instax wide Evo camera?
I agree, it's cool, and I'm usually not into instant cameras or anything like that, but I was interested.
Let's just explain what this camera is. So this is a 16mm 1-inch sensor. They call it Instax. It's a family of, I think, of cameras. It's basically how would you describe it? It's both a digital camera,
right,
and instant film or instant printer or whatever camera, like the old-fashioned Fuji.
Exactly. Polaroid,
exactly. So it's not Polaroid per se.
It actually doesn't look like a Polaroid. It's more of a printed photo.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the borders of a Polaroid, but it prints like, it comes right out.
And the prints are pretty big. By the way, I said Fuji, I meant Polaroid. Yeah, but the prints are pretty big. The prints are pretty big.
Right.
A lot of these print a very, very small photo, which I find useless. If you're already using this medium, you want something which is more or less the size of what you used to see on Polaroid. And this is
bigger than
I'm not sure. Do you remember the size of a Polaroid?
Well, by eye, it did look a little like it's definitely wider than a Polaroid.
Yeah. This is about 6.2 centimeters by almost 10 centimeters. So I don't know. I'll write it on the screen in inches, and I'll also write in what size was Polaroid, back then. But it's nice. It's $350 for the camera itself.
Yeah.
And each stack of like 10 prints is $15. Is it a lot? I don't know. You tell me. What do you think?
I'm curious how it actually prints. Like, is it using laser kind of? Or
I'm not sure what technology.
There's no ink cartridges that you have to buy for it.
I'm assuming that the paper itself has something that when you expose it to light somehow. I'm assuming this.
Interesting. It's interesting.
This is usually how this technology works. But again,
the other
I didn't look into that.
The other cool thing feature or ability that they give you is you can send a picture that you didn't take with that camera from your cell phone to that camera with the app and print it, which is cool.
Yeah. And maybe the biggest feature of this, which separates it, I think, from a lot of other similar like camera printers, is that this is digital in the sense that you can put the images on the computer and use them like a regular digital camera.
Right.
I mean, it probably is not the most amazing one in the world.
Not every picture that you take has to be printed
Yeah.
out, though. You can decide.
Exactly.
So it's really the best of both worlds.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. I would like playing with this if I get a chance. Just, because I don't print a lot. I probably should print more at some point. I'll get a big printer and start printing maybe in the next studio. I'm not sure if we have room in the studio for a big printer, but yeah, that's that's a good solution. I think it has so many uses. Like even for the studio, I'm thinking of clients. A client comes here, you do a shoot with them. And they leave without anything. If you have a chance to just take a picture and give it to them, it shouldn't be like the best image in the world, but they leave with something physical.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about a portrait shoot. Obviously, we shoot products and food and stuff like that. That's not relevant for that. But if you're doing a portrait shoot, that could be pretty cool.
I think this will also become popular among those social media photographers who are going around doing street photography and giving people the picture right afterwards. Now they'll be able to pick which one of those pictures they want to print out.
In theory, it can also be popular at weddings, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how fast it prints, and I don't know. Ooh.
Yeah, it won't be able to do a high volume, but I was thinking the same thing.
Be a couple of shots for the wedding, not like they are in. I'm not sure if this is common in other places in the world. In Israel, we talked about weddings just before this talk for a different reason, but we have something called, again, I don't think that's very common elsewhere, but it's called the magnet photographer, which is basically like a secondary stills photographer for the wedding, who follows the couple and the people in the wedding, and he shoots them and prints the images on a small magnet that they can put in the fridge or something as a reminder of the wedding.
A lot of them take pictures of all the different guests, and every guest gets a picture of themselves.
Yeah, they put it somewhere in the wedding at the end of the day, and before they go home, they find their print. And is it common in the US? Do they have something like that
also
in weddings?
At Jewish weddings, it's becoming more popular.
But for non-Jewish weddings?
I haven't seen it.
Okay. So that's, I don't know, maybe it's a Jewish thing. I don't know. But anyway, so that's the Fujifilm Instax wide Evo camera. Again, around $350 for the camera itself and $15 for 10 images. Adobe has something which it's basically not out yet. It's an upcoming feature that they demonstrated. Actually, it's going to be very useful for, I think, a lot of use cases, not so much for what we do, but I can definitely see it as useful for other people. It's a feature that allows you in Premiere Pro, maybe in other software as well, but specifically I saw it in Premiere, where you can, let's say that your workflow is getting like a bunch of photos, like 100, not photos, so videos. You get 100 videos or clips, you drop them into Premiere, and then you want to look for something. Now, if you're just the editor, you didn't shoot the videos, or you don't remember, it's like videos from, or somebody else shot the videos or whatever, you like just finding the specific segment that you're looking at, it can take forever. Yeah, it can take for a really long time. And now they're showing a feature that will allow you, using AI, with either object tracking or object searching, spoken words, or even by camera. I'm not sure if Lens is in that, but camera for sure. So you can search something that was shot on a specific camera, a word that was spoken by the transcription. I think that you can already search transcription, but maybe for a specific clip, I don't know how it works at the moment at the search function and the transcription, or by, I don't know how the object thing is going to work. I know we're sitting here, so a TV with a lens on it, you can write that and it will.
Yeah, I'd be curious how many objects will it be able to recognize?
I know.
Yeah.
That's a good question. So we'll have to see how this works, but that's coming to Premiere Pro and maybe other Adobe projects products in the future. Tamron has an interesting firmware update for their 50 to 400 millimeter. Now, what?
I was so surprised because I didn't expect Sony to allow.
Exactly. So let's go into it. Yeah. First of all, usually I don't report about firmware updates for lenses. It's usually not really interesting subject for a LensVid Talk.
Let alone a third-party lens.
Exactly. But this one is really surprising, and this is why I brought it here. This allows the 50 to 400 millimeter lens, which is like a interesting travel lens. I think it's kind of big. I'm not sure. Did you see the lens itself?
There's no way that's small.
No, depending on the aperture. But regardless. So anyway, it's a sort of a travel lens. It allows it. It unlocks the 120 frames per second feature. And this is really surprising. And why is this surprising? Because so far, like even 30 frames per second, let alone 120 frames per second, was reserved only to specific Sony lenses. Not even all Sony lenses support this. And from what I understood, Sony is limiting this to only Sony lenses. And again, not all of them. So seeing a third-party lens supports this is strange, surprising.
Maybe all it means is that Sony has decided that it's not going to put out its own 55 to 400.
Maybe. I'll give you another interesting perspective on this. I'm not sure if it's true, but that's just a guess. Did you know that Tamron is partially owned by Sony?
Why am I not surprised?
So as far as I know, if my memory serves...
It's in their interest, I guess. Makes sense.
Exactly. So there is not a huge percent, but I think 10% or something like that. Okay. 20% or 10% of Tamron is owned by Sony. So in a sense, it does make sense that a company that is owned partially by Sony will have this and not Sigma, for example, or Samyang, or some of the Chinese manufacturers. So I'm not fully surprised.
Tamron also doesn't make cameras, and Sigma does.
Oh, yeah.
That may be another reason.
Maybe. I would go back to the partially owned thing. And another thing is that you said that Sony isn't making a 50 to 400. I'm not sure. Maybe they will. But I think that because Sony owns a part of Tamron, I think that they're somehow coordinating which lenses Tamron will make.
Yeah.
And make sure that they won't really overlap with Sony lenses. I mean, there might be some overlap, but I'm assuming it's not like they're not really stepping on Sony toes in a way.
It would be very costly for at least one of the two companies if they made the same exact, they need to have different offerings, at least at different price points, even if it's largely the same lens.
Yeah, I agree. So that's probably the reason why this is available, but it's still surprising. And even 120, that's super surprising. As I said, even 30 frames per second is not supported on any other third-party lens. So that's interesting. Ulanzi has an overhead camera rig holder. I know how you want to call it.
I was expecting to see something else when I clicked on this. To me, it looks like a microphone stand.
Exactly. It's basically they took the idea of a microphone stand and made overhead camera rig for smaller cameras, like 2 kilograms, up to 2 kilograms. I don't want to say too much because I have a lot of ideas in this area. As I told you in the previous LensVid Talk, we're working on a lot of products with several manufacturers. Something along this line might be coming at some point. Not sure if this year, next year, or whatever, with what manufacturer, but we have some ideas because we shoot a lot of overhead top-down shots here in the studio, and I have a lot of experience with a lot of rigs that do a lot of things in this capacity. So something might be coming.
This is top-down for a desk, for an object. It's not top-down in the traditional sense where it's actually above your head. It's not going up that high.
This is for like content creators, people who do like small things with smaller cameras. It's not a professional rig.
Right.
my thinking is more along the line of what I actually do, which is product photography, product videography, and food photography, videography.
Right.
So stuff like that. So, but yeah, if you're looking for something like that, it exists. I'm not sure about the pricing. I'll put it on the screen.
The advantage, though, would be, I mean, as long as your camera is light enough for it, it is very easy to manipulate, as opposed to most top-down setups, which are a pain.
Yeah. No. Most top-down rigs are something that you place, and that's that.
Right.
You don't play with it.
Right.
You know.
Right.
This, yeah, it's you can put it. It doesn't have to be, by the way, a top-down. It can be like a front-facing camera.
Exactly right.
It's a desk holder that can also be
a mic stand that has
slightly
a mount
more
on
robust mic stand. Yeah.
It looks exactly like the one that came with my Fifine budget microphone.
Yeah.
And I did try to attach a camera to that one time.
Yeah.
And it was just a little, my A7 IV was just a little bit too heavy for those springs and the tightening knobs.
We're using a Rode.
This is more robust.
This is slightly more robust. This is the stand here, or the arm here, is a Rode thing. And it might be able to hold 2 kg camera. I didn't test. Maybe I did. I don't know.
I'm betting against it, but we'll see.
But anyway, yeah. So that's the Ulanzi overhead camera rig or whatever. ThinkTank has a new rolling bag. I really like ThinkTank bags. We tested a lot of them. And we are actually testing a backpack from ThinkTank. This is going to be a really long-term review. I think I did a short on that bag. It has been our daily bag for a really long time now. So I'm working on it. At some point, it will be released later this year. But this one is called the Airport Navigator version 2. And I think you asked me about this. So this is the answer to your question. This has 8 wheels, and they're 360 degree wheels.
Oh, that's because each wheel is a double wheel.
I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 4, but 2 of them. And because of this robust nature, they are 360.
Right.
Because I think, I don't remember if this was as part of a LensVid talk or just a separate talk that we had about why aren't there any like 360 wheels on camera rolling bags. So now there is, or at least.
Well, the ones, and we were saying the ones you see on luggage are not sturdy.
Not as robust.
These look sturdy.
Yeah.
They look a little bit like the wheels from the Orca bag that we recently reviewed.
Yeah.
They're not the quintessential rollerblade wheels of the Orca bag, but they do look like very, very similar, very, very sturdy. Even though they spin around, the wheel itself looks like it's solid.
Yeah. No. If it's ThinkTank, they looked into it and tested it like rigorously because ThinkTank stuff is, I've seen like people using it like on big productions. It's like really, it gets a beating, you know.
Like I said, your ThinkTank backpack is the best one I've ever used.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So this one, it has, let's talk about some features. It has a top opening. It's sort of a small and chubby little case, little roller case. So it has both a top opening and a side opening. And it has a very strong handle, which is not surprising for a ThinkTank bag. A laptop compartment, I think, somehow in the front. Yeah,
there's some attaching cords or whatever, so that the door kind of leans forward,
but not fully open.
It doesn't completely open, so that you can kind of just leave it and pull out the laptop with one hand without holding the door.
That's cool. And it has side pockets, which is not that common on rolling bags. I mean, some of them do, but not all of them. So that's cool. I'm not sure about the pricing, but again, it's an updated version of a previous bag. I never tested the original one. I'm not sure if I will get a chance to test this one. It's not really in tune with what we do. I would say it's more for people who travel like on air travel a lot, but with not a ton of gear.
One thing I really like about it is the top loading feature, because on my current rolling bag, I have to lay it down and open it up, which if I'm in a rush, you know, it's a pain, but this is better for on the fly. as a result.
Yeah.
You can really switch cameras quickly.
Okay, so yeah, I'll put the pricing on the screen, but again, it looks like a really interesting bag for people who, as I said, travel a lot but not with a ton of gear. So that's it. Finally, we have that's one. This one is going to be a short LensVid Talk. Again, it was recorded after the LensVid Talk 29, is the late January 2025. So the last one is going to be. I'm not even sure how to call it, because it's basically it's not even a prototype. It's just something that was announced and sold even before, like the first batch was actually sold even before it was shown as an actual product, like even on a video. It's called the Noxon robot arm, and we have a robot arm here in the studio. At some point, we really have to do a review on it. This is in the works, but it's taking a long time for various reasons. But that one cost over 20,000 euros, like over comparable to, let's say, $20,000, over $20,000. This one is bigger. It doesn't have the same beefy stand that we have on our robot, which is like, I think 50 or 60 kilograms. It's like very heavy base, for good reason, by the way. It should honestly, it should be more, but yeah, that's a different story. But this one either stands on a big tripod, which again, I think it's not a good idea, or on a desk. You can put it on a beefy
Right, it
desk.
has like a way to attach it.
Yeah, you
like,
can drill holes or
Right.
clamp it to a desk or something like that. And it has a big reach, like more than the robot that we have, the robotic arm that we have, the Loki from Cinema Motion. We did a video about.
it looks a little. Sorry, yeah. It looks a little bit like what is that called? A jig arm, where it kind of holds it out like a crane arm.
It looks like
I thought it did.
It looks like a robotic arm. Like they all
Yeah.
look more or less the same. There are bigger ones and smaller ones, but yeah. The thing is the price. Our robotic arm, as I said, is over $20,000 or euros or whatever, and it's considered very inexpensive. Most of those, like the bigger one, the big
Right.
ones for that you see on big like Hollywood or super high-end commercials, can cost way over $100,000, sometimes $200,000. The really big ones, maybe even $500,000. Or
So if this does half of what those do, it'll still be revolutionary.
this cost 5,600 euro. 5,600, yeah, 5,600 euros. That's nothing. That's really that's a quarter of what we
Right.
paid for our unit.
Right.
How good it is, I can't say. You know, I'll try and talk to Noxon. If we can somehow do a review, for sure, I'll be happy to do a review. We have a lot of experience with the Loki robot. Again, it will be nice to show people that this product actually exists and it works more or less like it's supposed to. I've seen, you know, there is a lot to do with the controls of the system. Our unit comes with like a touch screen, a big touch screen, and sort of a computer unit that basically powers the control screen. So it's a pretty complicated setup. This one seems
Self-contained.
simpler. Like it has like a big joystick, I think, or something like that controls it. I don't know. In theory, I don't see a reason why you can't have a robotic arm just connected to any computer that you have and just run it from a software on the computer. That will be the simplest thing to do. And then it will cost less and be a simpler product. I think that most robotic arms are basically like robotic arms meant for photography or videography, are basically versions of robotic arms for like industry work. Like I'm sure, I know that the Loki is.
Right.
The software, of course, is different, but the robot itself, the hardware, is like an industrial small robot.
Right. So maybe this is a consumerized version of that.
I'm not sure about this one.
Yeah.
I have no idea where it comes from. Maybe it is a consumer version of a different robot. I think that this one actually has a larger carrying capacity than our unit.
Wow.
Our unit is like, I think, restricted to, depending on what you have to understand about robot arms. If it's fully extended, the load is much smaller than if you're here.
Right.
Think about your arm. If you're holding something very heavy here,
It's physics, yeah.
it's not something like you can hold something very heavy in here. Holding it in here for a long time is difficult. So it's the same with robots. I think the load is either equivalent or higher on this one, which is very impressive again for the price, and the reach is longer. So I don't know. We'll talk to them, but I think that the pre-order is already like they had a bunch of like products that were available, and they were reserved for people who actually paid or whatever for them. Not sure about anything further than this. I'm not familiar with Noxon, but I'll try and reach out to them and talk to them and see what we can do about that. So this is everything that we have for you and LensVid Talk 30. Thank you, Lou.
You're welcome, Ito.
As always, don't forget to subscribe to LensVid Talk and LensVid in general. And we'll see you in the next LensVid Talk and review. Bye.
Bye-bye.